Bitcoin has seen a bloody past 6 days, and I think we're going to see some deeper corrections here, maybe take out that area at 106K. I thought we were going to start moving towards the upside as we broke this pattern right here, but obviously I was wrong, and there are liquidations happening on crypto simply because people are over leveraged. And you need to remember this market is driven by leverage as people keep on leveraging 10x, 20x, 30x and trying to gamble their way to riches, which is not how the market works. The market is not going to reward that kind of behavior. Of course, it is a bull market, so leveraging is normal and being on the long side is normal. But as you guys can see on this liquidations page on CoinGlass, liquidations have currently hit 600 million in the past 24 hours. So this is going to be extremely profitable for the market to continue wiping out people who are over leveraged in the market. So not really a cause for concern. I do keep seeing people trying to call tops on Bitcoin every move up, and I don't see the top signals happening here. I do think we are in the late stages of the market, and my thesis here is that we've got about 4 to 5 months left between now and January of 2026. And that is why I'm long on altcoins, because towards the end of the cycle, altcoins tend to go mad while Bitcoin puts in the most aggressive move towards the upside called the blow off top. So I don't think we're going to see deeper corrections. I see some people calling for sub $100,000 on Bitcoin. I simply don't think we have the time with what I'm working on. Of course, I could be wrong and my thesis could be wrong, but I'm not operating from that perspective because we have to take bets on this market and bets on decisions. So my idea is that top is coming within the next 5 months. So I'm going to aggressively position here to take advantage of the aggressive moves that are coming. I'm not going to be looking to hedge my bets for a correction, and that might punish me later, but we have to make our bets with risk in mind. So if we just take a look at the last couple of corrections here, we had one for 30%. It took 110 days to happen, so about 3 months. And then we had another 30% correction, which took about 200 days. If I work with the thesis that the market's going to end in the next 45 months, then I would expect Bitcoin to continue to move towards the upside here, range in this area, and then move higher and higher. Of course, that dip could come from some kind of unexpected news, but I'll simply have to hold my bag and wait until we begin to move higher because I'm simply not seeing the top signals other people are. The only top signal we may have is in September with the rate cut. That might catalyze something in the future, but we have time to adjust and pivot with the information when it comes out in September. So with that in mind, I'm going to talk about the bullish scenario here because I do think there's a lot of bullishness in the market. We're going to talk about Bitcoin dominance here, Ethereum, and the total market caps for the altcoins. So let's move on to Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance is finally breaking down on this trend line. I do think we need a little bit of a pop-up, and Bitcoin dominance can be a bit strange with it. If we look at the past here, we can see that even though Bitcoin dominance moved towards the downside heavily, it popped up for a bit before giving us the really aggressive move towards the downside. So any pullback up at this point, I wouldn't be too afraid of it. Instead, I'd be buying dips on alts. I think we're in by the dip season for alts. I've been talking about this in my Telegram group. I'm simply buying the dips I can. I'm buying quality alts, and I'm positioning for a major rally because Bitcoin dominance in the past has always moved towards the 40 to 44% range. Before we hit 35, then we hit 38, and I expect us to hit anywhere between 43 and 46. This is pretty much when I'm going to be looking to scale out. So we have a very, very long way to go. We're currently at 60%. Barely got this move started. Alts have barely moved, especially those on the lower end. On the higher end, they're beginning to move like Litecoin. You can see Litecoin putting in some nice move towards the upside, about a 68% move to the upside. And Litecoin is a big coin, it's about 8 to 10 billion. So we definitely have some coins moving, but still have a lot of way to go. And Bitcoin dominance tends to break towards the end of the cycle. So if we continue to see this breakdown, we're going to have signals, more signals saying that it's time to take money off the table and get ready for the end of the cycle. Instead, I know a lot of people are going to add and add and add on alts, which is not the way I would play this game simply because I've been in this market for a long time, especially in 2021. I held my bags underwater for a really long time. I was profit because I luckily got into some coins extremely cheap, but I simply don't want to hold massive bags all the way down for years and losing opportunity cost. It's simply not worth it. So like I said, we are in the beginning stages of alt season, and we can see that by Ethereum's performance recently. Ethereum had a massive move up towards the upside, 189% in just 3 months. Absolutely insane. Now, I did mention 2 scenarios on Ethereum. I mentioned the first scenario, which was going to be hitting 4K and then moving down to 28. Obviously, that didn't happen. Instead, we had the other scenario that I mentioned, which is hitting all-time highs or close to it. Our last all-time high was about 4,800. We kind of got there, took out a lot of short positions, and now you can see us moving towards the downside. I don't think this correction is over. I think we're going to move down to about 3,600, 3,500, and then potentially range and see us move towards the upside again to finally break all-time highs. I'm very bullish on Ethereum right now. We're at that stage of the market where Ethereum is going to outperform Bitcoin. However, on Ethereum Bitcoin right now, on this pair, we also hit the trend line that I mentioned in my last market update. We're probably going to get a pullback down to about the 0.32 or 0.78 position right there. So we're going to use the fibs, and the market likes to move towards the downside here to the 50. So seeing us pull back about 23% is not out of the question. And then what I want to see during October, November time is finally breaking out of this trend entirely and taking out this high, this red line that we've got here, where we had resistance multiple times, unable to break it. I want to see us make a new high and change structure and finally change the trend of the market to move higher. Now that's going to signal to the alt market that we are ready to go, because as you guys can see, when Ethereum put this move in, we had a lot of alts go. Specifically, if we take a look at Total DeFi, you can see the kind of move we had on Total DeFi, an absolute monster of a move, moving us about 78% on the DeFi index. So really good to see. Memes, I think, have been lagging. I haven't checked on memes in a bit, but I do think it is lagging. You can see a bit of a correction down here. We did break this trend, move to the upside, but we are slowly lagging right now. So still waiting for Ethereum to make a new high. And once all-time high is broken, confidence in alts will be restored as people get to that euphoric stage. Right now, we are in the belief stage that Ethereum is going to take over, but we're not quite in the euphoric stage. Now, if we take a look at USD Dominance, which is a indicator of stables in the market or not. And right now, people are seeking safety, a pullback towards the upside. So this is a buy the dip moment. Every time we have large degree moves to the upside, it is a buy the dip moment, as you guys can see here. But we do have a little bit of a trend right here. It's a small trend. We do have a bigger trend, as you guys can see. But right now, we are in the buy the dip moment. So I am loading up on altcoins right now, specifically on AI on base. I've mentioned it many times on this channel, but I wouldn't be too worried right now about alts going lower until we break this trend. So if we happen to break this trend, it means that people are looking to aggressively load up on stables and sell their alts, which means this is going to move towards the upside to this trend line right there. And that means there's more pain ahead for altcoin holders. Now, I'm not looking to play this game. I'm simply going to wait until we move towards the downside, simply because I got really good buys on my alts, almost the bottom buys. And if we do revisit the bottoms, that's fine. I'll simply load up on the alts I like when we get to new lows or double bottom. Now, as we can see on total right here, we have actually continued to move higher and higher, which is a really good sign. And the second thing we can take a look at here is total 2, which is the market cap excluding Bitcoin. And we actually made a new high on here, or correction. We just double topped right there. So waiting to break this all-time high here. Exciting times. You can see the bullishness and the energy, but a pullback here is probably warranted as we tap that all-time high, pull back, and then break. The other two charts I want to take a look at are total 3 and others. And right now you can see total 3, which excludes Bitcoin and Ethereum. So a lot of the large caps are putting in strong moves, but still yet to break the top of the altcoin market. So still some work to do there as well. We're on the edge of altcoin season, but not quite there yet. But the way it'll work for most of this stuff is that the higher ranked coins will tend to move first, as you guys can see on this chart compared to the others chart. The others chart contains all the other coins outside the top 10. And as you can see, it's the one that is lagging the most, simply because the money trickles from the top to the bottom. And right now, it hasn't trickled too hard to the bottom. But once we do begin to get those moves on the larger caps, this others chart will fall to the upside, and those smaller alts will get an injection of liquidity, which will send them much higher. It doesn't take too much money to pump these alts. So kind of moves we'll see towards the end of the cycle are going to surprise a lot of people. We still have a lot of room to go towards the all-time high. We have to put about a 70% move towards the upside to break that last all-time high. So a lot of room there. All in all, still very bullish. If I had one specific ecosystem to check out to capitalize on this move, it would have to be the virtuals ecosystem. As you guys can see, we are currently in a corrective wedge. And once we do break out of this wedge and move towards the upside, the whole base ecosystem, specifically on virtual, will move towards the upside when virtual hits $3. So this is going to take some time to move, as it is dependent on Ethereum moving towards the upside. So I would stay patient, but definitely position in this because this correction is already deep. We might have one more drop to about 93 cents. If we use the fibs, we can see we line up on the 786 down there. So 91 to 93 would be the area I would next target on this drop. But this correction is already deep enough for me to nibble on and buy a position into virtuals and its ecosystem. And the next part is probably the hardest part, is just being patient and waiting for these moves to actually begin breaking out. But with that said, I am bullish, buying the dips and simply waiting. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys on the next one.